We're here with Jeff Knowles from Venable. Jeff, we saw David Vladeck today at the keynote address talking about a lot of FTC issues. What's your take on some of that?
Well, I thought David Vladeck did a great job today talking about the issues that are at the forefront of the Federal Trade Commission's enforcement efforts. He talked about the testimonial and endorsement guidelines, which became effective this last December, and talked about areas of enforcement in that with regard to the new guidelines that were very good. He also focused on affiliate marketing. That was one of the areas that he tackled, and said that there were a lot of abusive practices going on in the affiliate marketing space that are causing problems for the industry. And he actually looked at the industry and said, I hope we have the good guys here in the audience. So I think he covered that point very well. He was asked about the changes that MasterCard and Visa may be imposing in the industry, and raised the issue there of whether or not there'll be a crackdown on the marketing practices of merchants in the electronic retailing industry and in the affiliate marketing space. And so I thought he did a good job in addressing questions from the audience there. It was an important speech this morning. He is a very high official in Washington, the leading consumer protection advocate for the federal government. So I thought he did a good job educating our members about what the FTC is looking at doing. And of course, the FTC is also working with the state attorney generals in this area, as well as working with members of Congress, more specifically the Rockefeller Senate Commerce Committee investigation. So I thought it was a good presentation overall, raising a number of points that really overlap. I think when you look at the use of testimonials and endorsements, when you look at negative option or what we call free-to-pay offers, he focused on that. And then he focused on the resulting impact on the credit card associations. And so I thought it was a very stimulating talk. I thought the questions from the audience were great. And I thought ERA did a good job in bringing him to New Orleans for this. And I hope we'll see him again down the road in the future in Washington at ERA's next event.
Sure. Now, as members of the ERA and the DR community in general start embracing more internet technology to get their products out there,
right,
we see that some of the not so reputable guys are out there messing around with credit card numbers and things like that. And that's really what the FTC is about. I took back from that session that they're concerned not so much with those of us who are trying to be proactive,
right,
but for the rapscallions out there who are stealing people blind. Do you think that the increased FTC regulation and guidelines will be a boon to our industry in terms of getting rid of some of those bad people out there?
Well, as a lawyer at Venable and as someone who represents a lot of companies in this industry, I think the new guidelines and the enforcement actions that are being brought by the Federal Trade Commission and by state attorneys general really present some interesting challenges for our industry. I like to think that every challenge presents an opportunity for the good guys. And it's very clear that the bar is being raised, and those companies that are going to act lawfully and in compliance with the laws and that treat consumers fairly are going to do well in this future marketplace, particularly online. Those companies that are abusing consumers, not treating consumers fairly, not honoring refunds, taking credit cards and billing consumers, without their consent or without full disclosure of material terms and conditions, I think are going to suffer. I think there'll be a real crackdown. That crackdown is going to come from Congress and perhaps in the form of new legislation. It's going to come from the Federal Trade Commission with new guidelines and with stiffer rules and regulations. It's going to come from state attorney generals that bring enforcement actions, and it's going to come from private class action lawsuits that are filed against marketers. So I think this is both a threat and an opportunity, and I always like to put the emphasis on the opportunity side, and I think that those marketers that pay attention to the laws and are compliant and also pay attention to treating their customers fairly are going to do very well in the future.